I'm starting this lesson on painting with watercolor on canvas in my gallery here in Washburn. And I'm actually kind of putting the cart in front of the horse by showing you some of these finished paintings first. Over here you'll recognize some of these because we're going to start the lesson by showing a newsletter that we previously posted on YouTube. And it's just the information about how to prepare the canvas and how to finish the canvas. So here's two pieces that you saw earlier. This one with the collage papers on it, and this one with just the white background. As he's coming around with the camera, you'll get to meet Jonathan. Say hi. I'm sure a lot of you have talked to him on the phone. Now here's a couple of pieces that you saw me put. You will see me finish this area right here on this painting again with the white background. And then we have two pieces above it that have backgrounds. This one a very subtle, just soft blue-green, almost like a white background, just a subtle color. And this one over here, I did a whole bunch of canvas pieces with a cactus. Oh, that was fun. Here's another one where you can see the background, and I really had a good time doing that. I wet the background first. I actually painted these flowers first, and then I wet the background, and I just enjoyed pulling in, echoing some of the warm colors in the background that represent the flowers, and then painting into it while it was wet. You'll find canvas stays wet longer than paper, so you have a chance to really play in that background. So I did a lot of, not a lot, but a little bit of lost edges and some lost things out of focus. We have another piece up here, a lot of wetted to wet in the background. This one up here has some wetted to wet in the background. That is a great subject. I'm planning to paint that soon. And this one here is the one that you saw me start. It was just a drawing. You saw me drawing in some of these pieces. So I just wanted you to see the finished piece. Okay. We have another canvas here. I really enjoy these. You can see it has the deep profile. So we just literally paint all around the edge. And you hang them on the wall. This is, oops, well, it does have a wire. Here we go. You just hang it on the wall, and when you think about it, it's amazing that you can paint with watercolor on canvas, no frame, no glass, no mat, just put a little wire on it, hang it on the wall, and that's it. Our encore presentation on how to prepare the watercolor canvas is going to follow, and you may have already seen this. It was in one of our newsletters. And then after that, we're going to do a complete painting of abstract with mixed media on canvas. So I'll meet you back in the studio. We're going to do the next lesson on canvas. This is any old canvas. You can buy it in stores anywhere. It's available. It's very inexpensive. And we're going to prepare the canvas with a special product so that it will receive watercolor. And we're going to be working with some collage papers, and we're going to be making it into a semi-abstract. This is a totally abstract piece, but we're going to do a theme of semi-abstraction next. And then here's another one, very abstract. You can just see the movement, the colors, the lines. All the elements of design are involved in doing abstraction. They're also involved in doing semi-abstraction. And we're going to work with rocks too. So behind me, I have some rock pictures, semi-abstract. This to me has been one of my favorite pictures. I've kept this picture forever. And you can see the rocks as you're leading into the subject, out again, back down, off the page. And I love the rest areas. So this has all the elements of an abstract painting, except it sort of looks like water kind of bubbling over some rocks in a little brook. This one here, you can see that they're rocks, but they're not meant to be involved with water so much as interlocking with some branches. And you can see here, it's on canvas, it's got salt, and there's all kinds of fun things happening in there. Dark, mid-tone, light. Each one of the rocks are dark, mid-tone, light, dark, mid-tone, light. So we're going to work with some of these concepts and possibly some of the water concepts, and we're going to put this all on a canvas surface. So I think probably because I live near Lake Superior, I don't know, rocks have always been a fascination for me. I love them. So they just creep into just about everything I paint. Here you can see is a real experimental one. And by gosh, look at, we ended up with some rocks. This one here is blatantly rocks. In fact, this needs to be maybe pushed back a little bit. But rocks and the relationship of each other, how some interlock, some are over the top, some are next to each other, some are big, some are medium sized, some are small, some are very small. You need to think about all that. And even in a landscape such as this, you can see where you've got this zigzag of shapes that ultimately turn into rocks. Now, this is our canvas, and I do have a tip down. You can go to the tips section, and I tell about how to prepare the canvas, because there's a special preparation you have to put on here for it to receive watercolor. And I'm really excited about this product. It just became available recently. It's made by Golden. They're one of the finest in the country. Golden products, always the best. And so they came up with a whole line of watercolors called Core, Q-O-R, Core. And they have two grounds that you can use to prepare the canvas for use with watercolor. The one I like the best is the cold press ground. So by just putting a single coat of this onto this surface, you can hear it's very rough. It's like a cold press paper. And you can see how thick this is, extremely thick. So I just put in one coat, and I show how to do that in the tip section. And then when the entire piece is done, it has to be protected, because watercolor on canvas is very vulnerable. Just a drip of water and it's going to move, it's going to lift. So when it's all done and completely dry, then I show you in this tip section how to put on the Dorland's wax, which is a beautiful finish. And you just rub it on and it's protected. You could also spray it with an acrylic spray. So because I'm thinking about rocks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with wax paper, and I'm just going to roll out a little of this paper. Just like paper dolls. And I'm going to fold it up and do a whole bunch at a time. So you can see, I'm just going to cut out some rock shapes. So I'm always thinking when I do this, well, some rocks are kind of irregular. There's a rock. Some are a little smaller. Some could be long. Ooh, we could have a nice long rock here. There's some long ones. And then some of them could just be what's left over here. I love doing stuff like that. Let's do a couple more smaller ones. So we don't need a whole bunch of rocks, but we certainly need a variety. We need some that are in between, some that are bigger. So using this, I'll set those aside. We're going to start out by just charging some color onto the surface here. I'm not going to wet it. I generally don't wet canvas, and I talked about that in that earlier presentation. If this were a regular piece of paper, I would probably wet the back, wet the front, and do all that. But because I'm working on canvas, I'm not going to. I'm going to just start with throwing the paint right on the canvas. And you can see how cool it is. It just goes on so beautiful. I love it. We've been painting on canvas all summer long. So I'm thinking now of my path, and I really want this to have a path of movement through it. And we're going to be working also with some collage papers, some Ogura, and maybe some Unryu. Now, whenever I want soft edges, I can just spray with my fine mister. So usually on the edges of my paper, I like the edges soft, so I'll put a little water there. And then I'm also going to be working with, let's get some gold on here. Quinacridone gold. And if I put this right in with the yellow, it's just a nice harmonic enrichment. Let's go out to the edge here. Let's come a little bit through here. See, and I like some of the hard edges. I think it's fun. And then we'll just soften, put a little bit in here too. So you can see I'm doing kind of a zigzag here. Corner. Here off, and I like to go off the edges. Now I'm going to come in with some warmer colors, and so I'm going to go into some of the pink here. This happens to be my coral, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that here. Again, I'm going to mix it in with the yellow. Notice how I'm saving some whites. I really want to save whites. A little bit to the edge. And let's see, maybe we better bless the painting a little bit. That's always good. And a few more dabs of the warming it up. So generally when I do an abstract painting, I try to keep the colors in a dominant range. So I have to think now, do I want this to have a warm dominance or a cool dominance? And I think I'm going to go with the cool dominance. Even though I've started with all these warm colors, I'm going to go with the cool dominance. So I'm going to start moving into some of the cool colors. This happens to be permanent magenta. It's kind of a purpley color. It's also the complement of the yellow. So when I put this color down, I'm getting a true complement side by side, and I'm also, where I mix it in with the red, I'm getting a harmonic effect. So you'll notice I'm staying away from the yellow, because yellow and pink, you'll notice I'm staying away from the yellow, because the yellow and the magenta are going to form a gray. But if I keep the magenta close to this harmonic pinky color, I'm going to be okay. So that's what I'm going to do. Just going to stay close to it. And I think I'll start pulling some serious color in down here. A little risky there, touching the yellow, but that's okay. Because my paper, because my canvas isn't wet. See, the only time I'm going to have bleeding is when they touch each other, where the wets touch each other. So now I'm going to go into some more colors. Ooh, my favorite, Antwerp. Love this color. And I want to put it next to the purple, again for a harmonic relationship. Love that. So of course I'm going to have to pull it down here too, get that harmonic relationship going. I think we may have enough. Although if I want to have a cool dominance, I might have to go into another blue. And another favorite blue of mine is manganese. So I think I might just do a little bit of manganese. Again, putting it next to the other blues and purples. So now I'm just going to finish out these white areas. I'm just going to wet them. See, I'm just going to come in and wet them because I want to save those whites. So I'm going to wet them and bump into those edges. There's a little bit here and up here. So now my entire surface is wet. This is cool. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to think about making some textural effects. When you do an abstract, you're dealing with movement. You can see I've created some movement through here. You're dealing with color, obviously. And now texture. So when I put these down, they are going to grab the surface and give me some textural effects. And I really want to save the lightest lights. So most of these I'm going to put into the light areas. See that ugly gray color? That's what happens when the yellow gets next to purple. I don't mind a little bit of gray, but that's kind of, we could do better. So we're just going to pull that out. That's better. Now the only reason these are sticking here is because I wet the surface. And so what I'm doing is just kind of pulling up a pattern. That's a great big one. So now I'm going to pull this down here. Over here. And I want to go into some of these smaller ones. And see, now they can start overlapping each other too. That would be cool. And some of these weird sizes, they don't have to look just like rocks, but I want some little ones. So what I always try to do is to get these so they're going off the edge of the paper. So you'll notice I've got them here, they're moving down here, they're going up off the edge here, and they're not going off over here. Now this one goes off up here a bit. Let's have this one come off a little lower. I'm just doing little pieces. Now I'm going to play with a beautiful paper. This is called Ogura, and I have this size available. It's 465, and all of these materials I'm using are available in my online store. Ogura, O-G-U-R-A. And this is the most highly fibered paper I know of. And look what happens when I put this in here. It sucks up the color. Oh, this is so fun. So now I can create texture and linear movement just by putting these, if I want to, in a line. And zig and zag them around. So I just literally pull this apart until it's just it's just lines. You can see what it's doing. It's absorbing the color. It's kind of fun. So I want to move this up off the page. And I'm going to keep pulling it down through here. Too bad, this is so much fun. So it doesn't take a lot, but it's fun to have that a little extra. I actually use this quite a bit. Now, if you find it's starting to get a little dry, just spray into it, and that will help it to, it has to be like a damp sponge. See, I'm putting these down, they're totally dry. So they, you know, you don't really get the color in there until they absorb it. Okay, I'm gonna put a few over here, but see, there isn't as much color over here, but there will be. I've still got some more steps. So I just wanted to get these in and get them to absorb some of this color because I love the texture. Not wet enough. All right, I'll show you who's boss. If these are not sticking, that means your surface isn't wet enough. So I'm just gonna spray a little bit and get these to stick. Okay, now I want to do a little bit more color. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my magenta and my French ultramarine blue. Now this is a very heavy mineral-based color. And when I paint this down, it's going to form some lovely edges on these rocks. So you can see why I wanted to put the rocks over the lightest areas. Because see, now I want to get this passage. I might even put a little manganese blue on here too. So we're going to come in manganese blue, beautiful blue color. We're going to go touch over our rocks. See, now you'll be able to see the rocks. But we're going to still save nice soft rest areas. And I'm going to do a little bit more French ultramarine. Now that's a darker color, and it also works really well. And I think I'm just going to throw some of the paint in like this. Now another textural effect that I absolutely love is this medical gauze. And we also have this available, like if you're interested in the whole roll, it'd be about $5.50. But you just need a little section. The thing is, this has to be undone. There. This is the hardest thing you're going to do in this entire course, is to open up this piece of gauze. It's very difficult. There, I have it down. You can see how big it is. I have it down to one layer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little section. See how small that is? I'm going to touch it right here with 2 fingers, and I'm going to pull it. And as I pull it, it's going to not look like gauze. It's going to look like a linear shape. And that's what I want. I want a linear shape. So I'm going to take my brush now and seed it. See how it's absorbing that color? And it's giving me some lovely lines. Oh, I love it. I even like this little corner here. I'm going to leave it. There we go. Now I'm going to just take another small piece. I'll show you how small it is in a single layer. So you just open it up in just a little piece like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this linear shape and come down here, right over the rocks. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to pull this right over the rocks. And when I get to a point, I'm going to grab it and zigzag it back up again. Now, as soon as I do this, I have to wet it. See, with my damp brush, I'm just pushing it into the color and it's absorbing the color that's on that surface. So that's pretty fun. Now, what I'm trying to do is think about this as a pattern. It's coming through. Doesn't look like a piece of gauze. If it looks like a piece of gauze, that's bad. That's bad. Ooh, it's got to look like linear shapes. Okay, now here is another piece. Now what I'm talking about when I say if it looks like a piece of gauze, now this is bad, don't do this. But if you just set, a lot of people just set this in, they just set it in there like that, and it looks like a piece of gauze. No. What we're going to do is we're going to make this look like a linear shape. So I'm just going to come into this nice open area here, connect it. See how I'm pulling it? And I'm connecting it to this other linear shape that we've produced. So I'm just going to come in now, seed it. See, I'm pressing down, it's going into the color, it's picking up the color. Oh, that's neat. Okay, now I want to continue these lines. I like this, I just love that. So I think what I'll do, I've touched off twice here. I think what I'll do is start here and just pull this linear shape right over here. And see, I keep pulling until it doesn't look like a piece of gauze. I pull until it looks like lines. And then it's not done now. You have two choices. You saw me set it with my flat brush. I could also set it with my sprayer. Just by spraying water onto this. As soon as the gauze is wet, it's like a damp sponge, see? It absorbs the color that happens to be there. Isn't that pretty? Now, not all colors transfer through the gauze. So I'm going to take some manganese blue. This color transfers through the gauze. Oh, it's so pretty. So I'm going to put a little manganese on here because I know that color will transfer. It's a heavy, heavy mineral base. So what I do is I just take my brush just almost flat so that the only thing I'm really touching is the gauze itself. And I'm just going to make sure that those colors, those beautiful lines, are going to transfer to my picture. So I've pretty much touched all of those. And I'm really enjoying some of the textures I'm getting from this Ogura. So I'm just going to take another piece and I'm going to do some more. See, I like that. I'm going to put some more over here in between the rocks. And see, it has to get wet. You have to wet it so it's absorbing that color. I'm going to put another one over here. And I have to spray it with my sprayer. As soon as I spray it, look what it does. It sucks up all that good color. Ooh, I love it. A few more of these. They really add a nice touch. Okay, so this will be my last one. Now I haven't run out of tricks yet. I've got one more. And before I do the next one is my grand finale. So before I do the next trick, I'm just actually going to take and put in some more darks. So I'm going to start with my manganese blue. That's a really beautiful blue. And I'm just going to start punching it into my path where the rocks are. Just going to come in here, build up my path of dark here. With just, first of all, a little manganese. I love the color, and I know it's going to work well on my linear pieces here. Now the next thing I want to do is build up even more darks. Manganese is not a dark color. So now I'm going to go into some French ultramarine blue, and I think I'll even add a little Antwerp into it, just to get darker. Ooh, look at that, dark. So see, I'm going to darken some of these edges in between here, and pull that dark across and up out of the piece. So you can see now my dark path is coming down here. See, my lightest lights are still going to be on the rocks. That's pretty cool. A little more Antwerp, a little more French ultramarine, and I'm going to move my path right over the gauze, right down here, in between the rocks, all the way to the bottom of the paper. Oh, look at, they're right on top of each other. Let's move it over a bit. When I see some hard edges, I'm just going to do a little spray. I don't want any hard edges. I tend to leave my underpaintings very soft. And it wouldn't hurt to go just a few little dark strokes in between this. So I hope you can see that there's a definite path of dark started. And we still have some rest areas, but I have one more trick. Okay, I just thought of one other thing that I thought would be fun, and that would be just to do a couple of these little, just cut these a little bit and just let them fall wherever they want. Sometimes I'll even put it right over at the last minute, and these will create some lovely textural darks. We like texture. So I'm just putting a few extras. And this is my last death-defying act. Now this is a store-bought stencil. I really love this. This is a brand new one. And I love it because it kind of looks like rocks. So what I'm going to do is just set that down. And this is the first time that I've introduced color sanding. So I'm going to be using like woodless watercolor and regular watercolor pencils. Now the ones that don't say watercolor aren't going to work because they have too much wax in them. It has to say watercolor because those are going to melt on the wet surface. And you have to use 100 Grit Sandpaper. That's also going to be in your little gift box. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take similar colors and I'm just going to do a little bit of sanding. So we have a blue here. So I'm just going to color sand a little bit of that same color coming right out here. You can see I'm holding the sandpaper at such an angle that it will receive, it'll just fall like this. It's also important that the surface is wet. That surface is wet. So now it's similar to that color. So I'm going to pick up that color and I'm just going to come out a little ways here and pick up some of this pattern. Come down here, the same thing. Go back to the other pencil, do a blend of the two, and then just to add a little extra dark, I'm going to take this extra dark color and put just a little hint of that. So you can see I'm tying it into what's already here. Now let's see what we've got. Oh yeah, love it, love it. I'm also going to do a little bit down here. And here's another trick. Once you do this sanding, I set it with my fine mister. So holding my hand high, see how high it is? And with just a little movement, I'm going to just drop down a little bit of this mist on it. And I hope you can see, but it's getting darker. It definitely, look at how dark. It definitely gets darker as you do that. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, so using the same colors in my 100 grit, I'm going to go right into the picture here. And I'm going to come out along the edge, same color, moving out into that white area. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a transition. I still want this to be a restful area. See, this is still a rest area, but now I have a transition between the rocks and that. And I love this really dark one. So I'm just going to do a little bit of the really dark pencil, just for a little extra pizzazz. Ta-da! There it is. Now, as I spray that, you're going to notice it's going to get darker. So I hold my hand high, and I'm moving, and I spray like this as I'm moving. Fun. And I like to do this in 3 places. Now, I kind of like what's happening here with that pink coming in. I think what I'll do is just do a little bit right down here. Just a little transition right at the bottom here. So again, I'm going to start with the same blue. Kind of come out into this area just a little bit. Same blue, repeated. I have 2 of the lighter blues, and then a little bit of this darker blue. Just a little, linking it in and coming out. Be careful when you lift that up because the top is full of this sanding. And now I'm going to spray it. Always spray it again, because it's the water that's melting the pencil that is bonding with the surface. It takes a lot of water, so don't be afraid. Now once you do this, you really can't paint anymore. So now we're just going to let this gel and cook, and when I come back, I'll show you how to finish it. Well, here we are. This is exciting. I always say it's like Christmas morning because we get to unwrap. We get to remove all these things. So this is the wax paper. We'll do a similar thing with the grapes. I frequently make my grapes using wax paper. And then this is very cool. Now you could actually glue this down if you wanted to. And there, a lot of people do, but look at it. It's so perfect. I usually take it off because it's more subtle. See, I like that. It's not quite as busy. So the darker you make that, of course, the brighter it is. And remember I told you only certain colors work. And this is one of the colors that works. That's the French ultramarine blue and the manganese blue. Now, if I wanted to, I could even take these little papers off. And they would be leaving all kinds of lovely patterns. So sometimes I do decide to take them off. But my preference is usually to, at the very end, glue them down. And if some don't work, I do take them off. And the good news is, if I did glue them down, I would be using Yes Paste. We'll talk more about that. And with Yes Paste, it leaves a workable surface to continue your painting. There we have it. Everything is off, except the collage papers, the Ogura papers. And some of these I might choose to take off, but I'm not willing to take them off yet. Well, now that everything's off, with the exception of these collage papers, which I'll glue down later, I'm ready to think about the darks. And you can see that my color sanding turned out to be the darkest part. So what I want to do now is to connect the darks. Oh, there we go. We want to connect the darks coming through here to this. And then these darks we want to connect to this. So that's this is already got a nice composition. I'm touching off all 4 edges. So basically I just need to connect the darks here. I love my rest areas. I didn't use any salt, but it still worked out to give me some nice soft textures. I like the color changes here with the grays and that little bit of pink just kind of popping through here and there. So far so good, I like it. Now to get into a nice dark blue, I don't want to go with black, even though this is black. I still want to have some blue dominance. So I think what I'll do is just use some of this indigo. And I very seldom use indigo by itself. It looks black, but it's actually blue. And then I'm going to add some Antwerp into that, because Antwerp is very similar to the colors that are already in this picture. And then if I need some soft blues, I probably will go with my manganese blue. So let's start with this nice dark. Now whenever I have rocks, one of the things that's really important is to come in and do these little triangles. So I'm going to move you in close here. And I'm going to do some real obvious ones. See, these are the shapes. This is negative painting. It's very simple. But most people, when they do negative painting, draw a line around whatever it is they're doing. Big mistake. What we're going to do is we're going to only paint some of these shapes that are in between. And we can change these rocks any way we want to. So this is the most obvious way. And the nice thing about working on canvas is it stays wet. Oh, look at, I have another I have another piece of wax paper there. So this is going to stay wet quite a while. So I'm probably just going to add some more rocks in here. And what I do is I keep making these little triangles, and then eventually I tie them together. So every time I want to make a rock, I make a little triangle. Here's another one. Let's do another one up here. Now if I was on paper, I'd have to stop and soften these edges. But because I'm on canvas, it's so easy. Now I'm ready to wet my brush, shake it out, touch it on my tissue, and now I'm going to soften these edges and just lose them. So all you're going to see are those edges. I love this. I'm going to soften this here, soften this, tie it together. And then the one up here, I'm just going to lose this completely. This is going to get lost completely into the background. Just with some water. I'll paint right on those papers. They'll get a little bit darker. Up here too. Now when those get connected, I'm just going to lose this one. I'm going off the top. And I'm probably just going to come in here and go off the top up here too, darker. So now we're going to connect the dots here. Come in, soften, and lose. All the edges on the outside get softened. Here's another one. Here's another one. We're just going to come in. Same here. We're just going to lose this. Just going to lose this. And look at that. In that little bit of time, we have what feels like some nice rocks flowing here. Now they're all very bright. Look at that. These look further back, but these are really bright here. So what I'm going to do is wet my brush with just clean water, and I'm going to put some of these into shadow. While this paint is still wet, I'm going to soften some of that. See how this entire edge is all hard? If I just come in with a little bit of moisture on my brush, I can soften that edge. So it's a little game I like to play where I push some back with a soft edge. See, look at how white that is. Ooh, let's just soften that a little bit. It's so close to the edge, it should be a little grayed. Better. Much better. So now we have not only hard edges here, we have soft edges. We have soft edges here, hard edges here. That's what I'm looking for. this lost and found. So let's keep going here. This is my mixture of indigo and Antwerp blue. And now I want to move my path through here so that I connect to this dark. So I'm going to start again with my triangles. Here's another triangle. Here's another triangle. Here's another one. Wow, this is fun. And another one. So you can actually move your viewer through your picture. You're in charge. And you do it with the darks. This little path of dark that we're creating is going to move us through the picture. So now I'm connecting it to the dark here. And I want it to be kind of a lost edge up here. I love the fact that this stays wet. Oh my gosh, it just gives me so much freedom to keep going. So you can see now I do have a connection. I think I'll just maybe add some more rocks over here. Go a little bit darker here. Come around. And we could make another rock here. Every time you want to make another rock, you just do these little triangles. We could do a little teeny rock here. Here's another. Oh, this is a great place for a rock. I think I'm on a piece of wax paper. Here we go. I was going, why can't I paint on that? Okay, so now we've got enough of these wet. It's time to come in and do the softening. So now with just water on my brush, first thing I do is pull this in and connect them. Connect them. Over here, I'm just going to put this whole rock underwater, just with a little bit of soft, all these soft edges. See how I just sunk that rock? Let's sink this one too. Now when I get to an edge here, I just lose this, just completely. I just bring it out and lose it. Here too. Here's another edge connecting to nothing, so let's just lose this out into the, I keep finding things here. I'll just let that add. It'll add some texture. So now, whenever I have an edge like this, I just lose it completely. This could be a nice lost edge, and this rock will just be partly drawn in. I love that. I don't like to define every rock perfectly. I'd like them to be lost and found. Now here, this rock is all too light. We'll come in here, soften those edges. I might even add a little color to that rock. Maybe some of that lovely manganese that I was talking about. Let's give it just a little bit of color. Now we still have some more to connect. Let's come in here. This needs to connect. 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 Oh, this is fun. And whenever I get to an open area, this is where I want to connect it to the edge of the paper. I'm just going to come in here with lots of water and lose it. Now that rock is entirely too bright. We need to soften the edges, and it wouldn't hurt to add a little color. It's next to some kind of golden color here. Let's put a little gold on that rock. And let's think about that on a number of these rocks. There's some lovely pink and yellows coming in here. Let's give this rock a little bit more color. So you can see we can do some layering, but you have to do it very carefully. It wants to lift the color underneath. This one here is next to that pink. That's my quinacridone coral. Let's just push that up a little bit. I could do a little more coral on this, a little more coral on this. move it through here. This is fun. This is fun. We're going to have a finished painting in no time. So I'm going to move out just a little bit more so we can see the whole picture. You can see now we've got a nice connection here. We still need to have a connection coming through here and maybe one slightly over here. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start connecting my path of movement over here. So I'll start here. And every time I come in to an area that's fairly big like this, then I can add as many rocks as I want. So I'm going to make another rock here. And sometimes we can have a rock that's underneath. So I'm going to take time with my pencil just to draw a few of these rocks. See how I put that rock on top of that rock? Because we see every rock. That's not good. We need to have some rocks that go. I can do another one here. This rock could come out and go over the top of that rock. See how they're 1, 2, 3, and those are really underwater. So I'm going to do that again. Over here, we've got a rock here that could be going over the top of this rock. This rock could come out here and go over the top of that rock. Over here, we could have this rock come out going over the top of that rock. So it's time to do a little bit of this. Get a little more Antwerp in here. So now the other ones I just sort of free-handed. This time I actually came in and drew some of these. So now I still do the old triangle trick. But now they're not necessarily triangles. We got different shape. So I'm going to wet my brush, shake it out, just touch it, and soften these edges. But now what we're going to do is we're going to put this rock underneath. This is very easy. So now we're just going to take this color and sink this rock. I'm not going to sink the whole thing though. See, now I'm just going to start out here, lose that edge. Now that's underneath. If I want, I can put a little more color on this rock. Maybe a little more manganese. Maybe some of that gold could spot it in there. Frequently you see rocks that have some interesting patterns on them. Little spots. I really need to spend more time looking at the rocks close up. But just throwing those little spots on there is kind of fun. Now here we've got one underneath, so we'll sink that. Not the whole thing though. I'm going to just lose that edge and just put that part underneath. We've got another one to sink here. We'll lose that. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish the painting, and then we'll take a look at it. Almost done. I always like to give you a view of the whole piece so you can see the pattern of dark now, the way we're working it through. And then over here, it's kind of fun to be touching these. I'm going to move to a little bigger brush. I tend to work with small brushes. If you're not comfortable with a really small brush, use the brush you're used to. I like to work with lots of control. So usually the last thing I do now is decide if I want to pull some more color in. Now I could make this rock a little blue or green. Kind of like some of this yellow coming through. I might just connect that yellow a little bit more. So we've got yellow in the corner, and I can move it through, just throw it in there and then soften it a bit. And see, just that little bit. We've got a nice movement now of the yellow. I could move it over here a little bit. Just throw some in. Soften it. We've got a nice little movement. Now I could connect the pinks in here. This is my quinacridone coral. So if I wanted to, I could just throw a little bit of coral. Soften it a bit. And there's a nice connection here, but it wouldn't hurt. There's the pink. Let's put a little bit more. And wherever it lands, we like that. Some landed in the background, some on the rocks. I like what's happening in here. I see I have one rock that needs to get sunk over here. Right there. We'll put them under. We'll put that one under. Now you can, at any time, you can remove color. There's something on here you don't like, you can take it away. So if I wanted to lose those edges there, I could easily lose those edges. I'm going to switch to a flat brush. Remember, all the bristles are the same length. And I can just come in here and soften this and remove it. On watercolor, everything can come out. So we can lose edges, we can remove things. Like this rock is kind of flat. I can just cut that in there a little bit more. It's almost too much. I don't like that rock. I'm just going to get rid of it. So you can easily soften edges and you can change things. This rock needs a little bit of the edge cut off of it. So we're down to the nitpicking now. We'll give you one last look. Now, very often when I do this lesson, one of the things I like to do is to think about putting shapes into it. So I'm just going to give you a little preview of coming attractions. I'm not going to paint rocks again. I'll have a different subject, but we'll do an underpainting with mixed media. You can see there's collage and everything in here. And then what we're going to do is design shapes that come around, interlock with the paper. And it's the same thing. In this case, the pattern of the rocks flow through these shapes. It's like just framing that part of the picture or framing that part. You try to make it the most interesting part of your picture. Here's another one. Very easy. I just drew a rectangle and then I just started putting rocks so they flew through this rectangle and came off to the various edges. Sometimes I would paint dark inside the line, sometimes outside the line. So this, if you weren't real happy with your rock painting, the way it turned out, you might try putting some shapes into it. Here's another one with just two big circles. And when I do these, I always try to have a way to get into the circle. So there's parts of it that I don't complete. I leave an entrance and an exit. See, like the bottom of this circle never got painted. It just melts out. Here you have an entrance in there, an entrance in here. People need to move through your painting, so always think about that. Don't make these two contained, make them related. And again, you can see here I painted inside the circle, here I painted outside the circle, here I painted inside the circle, outside, inside. It's just complete reversals. So we've got a lot of fun ahead doing something in this manner. Now sometimes as simple as just a couple of shapes. You can see these shapes, that's all it is. 1, 2, 3 straight lines. And then we've got the pattern of rocks coming through. And so you've got the entrance in and out again. And then again, sometimes outside, sometimes inside. And then out again. So very, very simple, but I really like the finished look. Now here's a canvas painting that I decided not to make into rocks. You can see I kind of started out with some rocks. Then I went, no, I just want to do shapes. So I did a long rectangle. So this is my horizontal. And then a tall vertical. So it's really a cruciform composition. And it's just a matter of sometimes painting outside, sometimes painting inside, outside, inside. And the same with this. I thought this would look good predominantly dark, just as an accent. And down the road, we're going to also work on canvas, and we're going to be doing jelly papers. We're going to make our own collage. So this is a lesson coming up. So I hope you enjoy working with watercolor on canvas. We did it all last year. All the students that I taught that to really thought it was terrific. So I hope you enjoy it. Well, we're very close to finishing this one. And as I looked at it today, I realized there was a big disparity between the blacks here and then all the way up here there were blacks. And so I just felt the need to tie that in. So using the same a combination that makes a beautiful black, I'm taking some quinacridone burnt orange and some French ultramarine. They're both value 9 colors. And when you mix them together, you can go from a warm brown to a black. Well, I don't want warm browns in here, so obviously I'm going to build up a black. And again, this is also a great opportunity to come in here and just dive into some little rocks. Just lots of them. As we're coming through, we can build in a rock anywhere we want. Here's one that's underneath, the little peak coming out. Isn't that cool? Here we see the whole rock. Here we just see a part of it. And over here now we can build in another rock that happens to be underneath. We'll leave that. Here we can build in another. So I'm going to move in a little closer so you can actually see what I'm doing. I just wanted you to get the big picture. What I'm trying to do now is I'm moving this dark collection of shapes. Here's another rock underneath. Comes out over here. So I'm going to move this dark passage from here all the way over to the dark right here. Oh, it already feels better just to have that connection. I love it. And we don't have to do the whole thing. In fact, I'm going to do some lighter rocks too. But now I feel like there's a wonderful connection going from the darks over to here. And again, I always take and wet my brush, shake it out. Okay, so now we're just going to have a few of these edges get lost. So I'm going to back up to this area where I had some darks put in, soften some of the edges, because I really like soft edges. They just have a beautiful way of connecting things. It's softer in here. See, this is feeling good as I move along. These are all hard edges in here. So I'm going to just take a little bit of soft edge here, maybe here. So I just throw it in there. See, here's a lovely found edge, lost edge, very important. So now as I look here, I think I'm going to need to do just a slight connection down to this dark at the bottom. So again, I'm going to come in with a few of these darks. Here's a big part of a rock, and maybe a little part will be showing here and here, a little bit in here. And now we want to get all the way down to connect. I'm always thinking about my path of dark. You'll hear me talk about that a lot. But see, this path connected, it's terrific. But I don't like that hard line. So that's easy. We just come in, soften it. See, we're still connected, but now it's a lost edge. Even lose a little there. So this was fun. I feel like now my darks are connected. It feels complete. We're going to back it up so you can see. We're going to back it up so you can see the finished piece now. Now, one of the other things that I love to do is to create little passages where you would have some lost edges, but they're not as dark, and they just go out into nothing. So I'm going to go into the same mixture here of this dark, but just add a lot more water to it. So it's grayed down. Because I'm working in a blue area, I'm just going to add some of that blue to it. So I have now a similar color, but it's gray. And I think it's really fun to come in and just do a few rocks that might not even have a complete, the whole rock might not be showing. Just a little suggestion that there's more rocks under here. We'll just lose those edges. Maybe one more over here. I tell you, this is like eating potato chips. Oh man, just try to stop. So this will be my, I promise, this will be my last rock here. And I do like just breaking up. This yellow is kind of bright. I might just throw in a little bit of some textural spots, gray it down just a bit. We are now ready to glue down all the pieces of Ogura that we put down. Now it looks like the gauze is on it, but remember I took that off. But there are little wonderful spidery shapes here of Ogura, and those need to be glued down. So I'm going to tell you about a wonderful product called Yes Paste. This is called Yes Paste, and it's an unbelievable product. It's acid-free. That was required by the artist. For a long time this was not acid-free, but now it is. And it's an all-purpose glue, and the reason I'm so excited about it is when it dries, it leaves a workable surface. So generally I'm gluing things down at the beginning of my painting, and I need a surface where I can come in later and layer more watercolor. Now, a lot of people prefer to use like a matte medium or a gloss medium. This is an acrylic product, and it's an excellent glue. But the problem with this is you're going to have a resist. When you come back later to paint over the surface, you'll have a resist. So sometimes I like the resist, but I just find students do much better with this. Now you'll see how thick it is. I've had people send it back to me. They said, Karlyn, I got this, and it was solid. Well, that's the way it is. See, it comes out, it's like the old white paste we used to get years ago. And I don't use it this thick, except if I'm gluing 140-pound paper onto 140-pound paper. Then this is perfect. So what I do is I encourage people to not dig into it. Don't do anything. Just pour a little layer of water and just let that slake down. And when you come back, it will have slaked down and it will be really thick. And at that point, then I would just take, and with my flat brush, I would just work it. Now it's going to take a couple of days, so nothing's going to happen for a couple of days. So like I say, just pour it in there, set it aside. And then eventually you're going to have your yes paste. It's going to look like this. Now this is one I've been working on a long time. And you can see it's slaked down. Every time I'm done using this, I add a little more water in because I know it's going to continue to slake down. But see, if you notice, the bottom is still hard. So when I need thick paste, I just dig through the slate and get the thick paste I need to glue 140-pound paper to 140-pound paper. A lot of times I rip up my watercolors and glue them down to start a painting. So you can see now this is really lean, really lean. Oops, we'll try that again. Really lean. Almost the consistency of cream. Not skim milk, but kind of creamy. So using this, another problem people have is they put this on too thick and their picture stays sticky forever. So I always recommend wipe it off first and just start at the top, saturate the area you're gluing, press it a bit. I always use a flat brush, press it down, and you'll notice it's getting darker. As you glue this down, it gets darker and it stays darker. I love it. So this will be the end now. I'm just going to glue this down. Be very careful because we still haven't finished this surface with the Dorland's wax. We'll do that after the glue dries. But in terms of painting now, I feel this is complete. It's just a matter of getting all these little particles of the Ogura paper glued down. And you can see because I'm not working it a whole lot, it's not disturbing the paint at all. Even the color sanding is very stable. So once again, when you're using the glue, always wipe your brush and get enough to fully penetrate the fibered paper that you're working with. Smooth it out. Doesn't hurt if you go over areas. Like if I wanted to come back and paint later, I could paint over those areas where I overglued. It's beautiful. And you know what? We're done. We've got them all. So as soon as this is dry, I'm going to come back and we're going to show you how to use the Dorland's wax. Thanks. Well, this is the final step in our rocks on canvas. And what we're going to do is put on a product called Dorland's wax. And there's always some concern about using a product that's made out of waxes and resins. So it is a good idea to use a glove. And this is often used by oil painters when they mix it with their oil paints. I'm not sure the process, but it's a very popular product right now. Often really hard to get. We had a hard time getting it, but we've got a lot in stock right now. And what you do is you just take a little bit out. And when I first did this, I just didn't think you could go over something like those just delicate color sanding and all this stuff. And look at, you can just go right over it. Absolutely does not disturb it. It's amazing. So with my fingers now, I can feel where it's going on. And I'm just going to work my way around. And do the edges. Oh, I just remembered something. Thank goodness I usually start in the upper right hand corner. This has to be signed. Very important. So I'm just going to take my little #1 brush. You know, this is a real problem. If you forget to sign this and you waxed it, you'd have to get out some acrylics to do the signature. So I'm just going to do a real quickie here using the same colors that are in the picture. And we actually have a tip at the bottom of how to sign your name. So here's my favorite way to sign. I simply take a little #1 brush, and I like a signature rather than printed. So I'll just come in here and go ahead and write my name down. And I just happen to have a hairdryer here. Just take a second. So now we're back to putting this on. Well, we're all done now, and fortunately I remembered the signature. Oh. And I still am totally amazed how you can go over delicate color sanding and it just covers it so beautifully. Now you could just be done, but I found a little hot tip on the internet. I love that internet, and I'm sorry I can't give any credit for who was doing this because I have no idea who it was. But anyway, this is a little tip I got, that you just heat this up and it just pushes it into the grains, into the fibers. It's wonderful. But I've been also warned that there could be some odors coming up when you heat it. So be careful. And I like to heat it till it gets shiny. Well, you can see how quickly that happened. I do want to give you another word of caution. The flash point on this is only 175 degrees. That's very low. So don't get too carried away. Just as soon as it looks shiny, just set it aside and let it dry. Now, another way that you can do this is to simply go outside and do about 5 coats of the Karlyn acrylic. And that's an acrylic spray that has the UV protection all built in it. And you saw me do that on our last lesson when we did the sunflowers. So there it is, Dorland's wax. This will also go into the tips down below, and if you ever need to go back and reference it again, you'll be able to find it down in the tips. Thank you.